Hey, I'm Steven and this is Solving the Money Problem. If you're new, welcome. If you're not, welcome back. So Elon Musk appeared on Saturday Night Live yesterday and in his opening monologue came out of the autism closet, so to speak, revealing he has Asperger's syndrome, aka autism, aka autism spectrum disorder, aka whatever the fuck you want to call it. It's the same shit. So, in this video, I'm going to explain why Elon's autism makes him the leader he is and why there is no way Elon Musk would have been able to build SpaceX or Tesla were he not on the autism spectrum. Here we go again. Lucky I came prepared today, guys. So, for those of you who don't know, I too am on the autism spectrum. I mean, it's kind of obvious. If you know, you know, but if you don't know, you don't know. And many of you are too. My best guess is probably around 10% of the subscribers on this channel have autism. I bet most of you are unaware of this fact. Many of you will have adapted and got by just fine. In this video, I want to explain some of the autistic traits that make Elon Musk an amazing leader. Now, I'm not here to say that this is good, bad, or indifferent. I'm just trying to explain and give my perspective as to why Elon has been able to do what nobody else on planet Earth has. That said, let's get into the video. And by the way, since I know there's a lot of crypto lovers watching and people who like free stuff, it's your lucky day. For a limited time, you can get up to $250 in free crypto bonuses when funding a new account on BlockFi, where you can use cryptocurrency to earn interest, borrow cash, and buy or sell crypto. If you want your free crypto, use the link in the description. It also helps out the channel. And if you'd like up to 2 free stocks, check out the link in the description to WeBull. If you open a new account, you'll get 1 free stock valued up to $250 just for opening an account. And if you fund your account with $100, you'll get a second free stock valued up to $1,600. Unless you don't like free stocks, that is. And if you're in Australia, the UK, or New Zealand, you can get a free stock with stake, also using the link in the description. Let's get back to it. During Elon's opening monologue, almost the first words out of his mouth were an admission that I'm the first person to host Saturday Night Live who has Asperger's. Well, at least the first to admit it. And I believe there was a little bit more to this than meets the eye. Elon went on to explain that sometimes he tweets things that people think are a bit strange or completely misunderstand, and he followed up saying, hey, what do you expect? I'm trying to reinvent electric vehicles and transportation, send people to Mars. Did you really think I'd be a normal, chill dude? Come on. Now, of course, on the surface, it may not seem like there's too much to this, but I really think that this was Elon genuinely trying to explain to people why sometimes they misunderstand what he says and the fact that his brain literally works differently. Of course, there's a lot of people out there who hate on Elon. Truth be told, it's usually a reflection of how they feel about themselves rather than Elon. But this happens often. Elon says something, people misunderstand it. He states his mind, people misunderstand it. Being misunderstood, and in particular, having our intentions misunderstood, is an extremely common experience for people on the autism spectrum. There's 2 groups of people in this world. Those who have compassion, empathy, and kindness in their hearts, who always want to understand where was this person coming from, what was their intention. And then there's another category of person who's happy to prematurely and negatively judge somebody and make assumptions about their intentions without actually having sufficient information. Guess which kind of person I prefer to hang around. Of course, many people will still assume Elon Musk's an evil person, he's dishonest, all kinds of stuff. In fact, if you want to see some insanity, check out some of the tags on Twitter relating to Elon and autism at the moment. There's people spitting venom, vitriol, and hate still towards Elon. Why? Well, you can guess which group of people these belong to. I believe this was a really heartfelt moment from Elon, just trying to help people to understand who he is and where he's coming from, and prevent just a little bit of that hate and venom being spat in his direction. Of course, there's still plenty of people hating on Elon, there always will be. That's on them. More of a reflection of how they feel about themselves than about Elon Musk. Given the fact that Elon Musk is one of the world's most popular social media influencers, his very mention of being on the autism spectrum, having Asperger's, has created a huge amount of search interest in this very issue. We're now looking at the term Aspergers, which is the term Elon used on SNL, trends in Google searches over the past 7 days worldwide. And you can see the relative search interest, basically until the SNL appearance, 1 out of 100, then an enormous spike on the back of the SNL appearance, and a lot more search and discussion as well. I think Elon Musk really wanted to get a conversation started, and that is exactly what has happened. So let's look at some of the autistic traits that make Elon Elon. Radical transparency, honesty, and total candor is a very common trait among people on the autism spectrum. I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but Elon Musk has 2 companies with 2 extremely compelling and urgently critical missions. 1, Tesla to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy, and SpaceX to back up humanity and begin a colony on Mars. These are very, very important missions in the mind of Elon and myself and many others. There's 2 approaches that Elon can take in leading these companies. He can think about people's feelings first. How will they feel if I say this? Should I censor this feedback? Should I not tell them the truth? Should I be a little bit less direct? Or should I just explain they're slowing the fucking mission down, they either need to hurry the fuck up and get shit done, or they're out of the company? Elon takes the latter approach. Why? Because the mission matters more than your feelings. And those who are a little bit more rational and reasonable, a little bit less emotional, people who don't generally get so butthurt and offended when somebody says something that's truthful, even if it's not nice to hear, these are the kind of people that stick around and continue to work for Elon for years and years and years. And these are the people that are moving SpaceX and Tesla towards their mission. I acknowledge that it's not necessarily fun, it's not necessarily the most pleasant process, but when you've got a really compelling and inspiring mission, everything else comes second to actually achieving that goal. This is one of the traits that makes Elon Musk such a great leader. He is leading his companies, his engineers, his employees to achieving the goals of the companies. A different leader may be a little bit easier to work for, but they're not going to get the mission achieved in the same amount of time with so little resources. And this is a point that I really want to emphasize. Just like with this YouTube channel, I'm happy on occasion to say things that offend large segments of my audience. In fact, one of the most amazing things for me is when I release a video and I discover that I have had negative subscriber growth as a result of that video because I've cleaned out some of the sensitive snowflakes that just don't belong around these parts. There's other YouTube channels that'll coddle you, that'll tell you what you want to hear. There's people that won't use the word moron to describe somebody panic selling stocks because they think, you know what, I don't want to offend my audience. But again, I also have a mission that takes priority over your feelings. If I believe that I can have a positive impact, stop people losing colossal amounts of money by saying something a little bit more direct, a little bit offensive, I will say that because to me, the mission matters more than your feelings. Of course, a lot of you guys understand this, but every now and then, part of the audience just gets completely triggered and offended by something that I say. Sometimes they'll presume that I'm mean, I'm bad, I don't like them, I'm a hateful man. Of course, nothing could be further from the truth. I'm retired now. The only reason I'm making these YouTube videos every single day is to try to do good in the world, to really improve their own life and that of those around them. I do understand that along the way there'll be a little bit of carnage, a few people get a little bit upset. I totally understand that. But like Elon, to me, the mission matters more than anything else, and I don't sugarcoat shit. Another of the autistic traits that make Elon Musk such a great leader is his innate ability to understand the natural world, science, physics, and engineering. Predictable rules. This is made for people on the spectrum. Unlike the complicated social world, hey honey, are you okay? I'm fine. Oh, okay, no problem. Next minute you're divorced. You guys know what I'm saying, right? The world of science, physics, and engineering has predictable, understandable, and unchanging rules. This gives a leader like Elon Musk the ability to reason from first principles, go right down to the ground truth of the matter, and extrapolate out into the future. What's technologically feasible? What can this cost in the future? Do a really in-depth analysis rather than getting bogged down or reasoning by analogy. I think one of the reasons that so many automotive companies will be going bankrupt this decade is because they don't have an autistic leader like Elon who was able to go down to the ground truth and reason up from first principles with an innate understanding of the physical world and the laws of physics, literally the laws of physics, but instead they look around and think, well, no one's ever done that before, people aren't buying them now, blah, 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 and they kind of get stuck. Now, this isn't to disparage people who aren't on the spectrum, but I'm just trying to give you guys some understanding. This unique ability to understand the world from a scientific point of view, really understand the physical laws that govern every atom in this universe, makes a huge difference when you're engineering and inventing new technologies, such as electric vehicles or reusable rockets. And this isn't to say that people who aren't on the spectrum are incapable of understanding the rules of the natural world. Far from it. But for us on the spectrum, these kind of things are far more intuitive and natural rather than, say, for example, most people, where it's far more natural and innate to understand the social world rather than the natural world. Another of the autistic traits that make Elon Musk such a great leader, innovator, and inventor is the very fact that people on the autism spectrum have brains that are wired differently to those who aren't. We literally see and experience the world in a completely different way. This can create a lot of challenges, especially socially. But when it comes to inventing, redefining, creating new solutions, innovating, developing technologies, reinventing the vehicle, the electric vehicle, reinventing rockets, reusable rockets, colonizing Mars, these kind of things, it can be a real great advantage just by being able to see things in a whole new light and a totally different perspective to most other people. And I want to be clear, it's fair to say that people on the autism spectrum are basically aliens. This isn't a derogatory statement. It's just a statement of fact. We are wired so differently that our internal experience of the world is completely different, and this sometimes gives us a unique perspective. It's not always an advantage. In fact, most of the time it's probably not, but it's something useful and definitely applies to Elon Musk's ability to innovate, create, and invent like no person before him. Maybe you guys have heard of Isaac Newton, Albert Einstein. Those two blokes also on the autism spectrum and clearly had some unique insights into the natural world. And by the way, I don't want this video to come across like I'm suggesting that people on the autism spectrum are better or superior, or that if you're autistic you're going to be Elon Musk as well. Let's be honest, Elon probably has an IQ around the 165 to 175 range. He's also one of the world's most industrious and conscientious people ever. That has nothing to do with autism whatsoever, and those traits are also necessary to Elon's success. So I just want to point that out there and give you guys a little bit of perspective. Those traits also matter. And now we're getting to the really juicy stuff. In my opinion, the single most important autistic trait that makes Elon Musk such a great leader and innovator is his intense ability to focus on special interests. Elon has been obsessed with space and electric vehicles for 2 decades and has unrelentingly continued to drive both Tesla and SpaceX towards these goals, never wavering. He will not stop until his mission is accomplished. And I'll be honest, this focus, this ability to have an intense, extreme level of focus is probably one of the biggest strengths and weaknesses of people on the spectrum. I know from my personal experience, when I'm focused on something, everything else in my life just fades into the background. Literally, I will forgo sleep, food, doesn't matter what it is. If I'm focused on something, everything else goes to the wayside. I can't help it. This is both a blessing and a curse. Maybe you guys have noticed, in the past 18 months, this guy has made 450 videos about Tesla. Think about that for a moment. Is that not an example of an intense focus on an extremely narrow special interest? Of course, if I was a little bit smarter and a better executor, maybe I'd be inventing electric cars, but I'm going to be honest here, I'm no Elon Musk. I'm doing the best that I can, but this is one of those examples. People ask in the comments, dude, how the fuck do you make so many videos about Tesla? Don't you get bored? The answer? Hell fucking no. In fact, I'm more fired up and interested about making videos about Tesla today than I was when I began the channel. That may seem very difficult for some of you guys and girls to understand. That's kind of the point. This is an innate intrinsic trait of people on the spectrum. Intense focus and very strong special interests. This ability to focus so intensely and unwaveringly on a special interest can be a very valuable asset to people on the spectrum. Sometimes this interest may be something that doesn't really have any career benefits, but occasionally there's a little bit of overlap. The example with Elon Musk being absolutely obsessed with space and electric vehicles has allowed him to build 2 of the world's most valuable companies and change the future of humanity forever. In my own case, while I was working as a graphic designer, I became obsessed with investing in real estate. A few years later, I was able to transition sideways into finance, completely unrelated to the design world, but I was able to start a finance business and help other investors and did exceptionally well because my narrow focus allowed me to go from a total noob to an expert in just a few years. And Tesla itself has been a special interest of mine for around a decade. And what do you know? I started a YouTube channel about Tesla and I do okay. Of course, this isn't always the case, but again, just trying to give you guys an understanding. This intense, unrelenting focus, this obsession about a particular subject, a special interest, can really be valuable to people on the autism spectrum if this energy and focus is directed in a productive manner. Another autistic trait that makes Elon Musk such a great leader is his ability, willingness, in fact, compulsion to share his thoughts and opinions on things that matter, consequences be damned. I want to help you guys see things from the perspective of one autistic person, and keep in mind we are all different, we all see the world different from each other, so you can't put us into a little cookie cutter mold and say everyone's the same. But I'm just going to give you guys a moment of radical candor and complete and utter transparency. What a surprise. I have literally no respect whatsoever for people who hold opinions on things that are very important to them, who cower in fear and are unwilling to share those opinions because they're concerned about the consequences, people judging them negatively, getting cancelled, offending somebody. I literally do not respect these people, period. Now, I know that's a very harsh stance, but it's just the truth. I literally have no respect. There's a bunch of people I know on YouTube who pander to their audiences, try to tell them exactly what they want to hear. They're scared to offend anyone. They tread very lightly. They don't want to talk about this topic or that topic. Oh my God, I might lose a subscriber. Somebody might get offended. Now, I totally understand from a business point of view, that makes a hell of a lot of sense. But to me, I take a step back and I think, you know what? This person has got no integrity. They've got no personality. There's topics that are extremely important to them, yet they're too scared to share their opinion. They're pandering to their audience. It's like being a little nice guy pleaser bitch. No woman will respect a nice guy. They'll never respect a guy they think they can walk all over. I have the same level of disrespect and disdain. Yes, literally, I said the word disdain for people who are unwilling to share their opinions on subjects that are very important to them because they're scared about the consequences. It is completely unreasonable of me to have this position. I acknowledge that, but I'm just telling you guys the truth. Zero respect. The reason why this is so important, why this autistic trait, and keep in mind everyone's different, but in this case Elon and I are on the same page here. We just will not shut up. If something's important, we're going to say it, consequences be damned. The reason why this is so important is because with Elon Musk, he's a great leader because you know what you're going to get. If something matters to him, he'll tell you. If something's important, he'll do it. Elon Musk isn't pandering, isn't trying to please, isn't censoring himself or shape-shifting like a chameleon into what people want him to be. If it matters to Elon, you're going to know about it, the end. And this is one of the reasons why I respect Elon Musk so much. He's a real human being with real opinions, real thoughts, real beliefs, real convictions, and he won't censor any of them. That is a true leader. I just want to take a quick moment to address the women watching. I know that's about 5% of the audience, so please let me know in the comments below how you feel about this. Imagine you're dating a guy, and there's two versions of him. There's the version that speaks his mind and shares his opinions, makes decisions. Sometimes you don't agree with his opinion, sometimes you think he's completely wrong, but he never hides, he never censors himself, he never panders, he never tries to change his opinion or please you. He's never concerned, what are you going to think if I share this opinion on that? He always speaks his mind. Versus the guy who's always thinking, you know what, I don't know if I should say that. Hey man, she says she doesn't like this, maybe I shouldn't like this too. What if I should just not say that? I don't want to offend her, I don't want to upset her. Which of those guys do you A, respect, and B, find attractive? Let me know in the comments below. Is it the guy that speaks his mind, even though sometimes you completely disagree with his opinions? Or is it the guy that pleases and panders, doesn't really want to rock the boat? Another way to think about this is, which of these guys is going to cause Niagara Falls versus the Sahara Desert? I did just say that. Let me know in the comments below. And spoiler alert guys, I already know the answer to this question. It's guy number one. Why? Because women respect a guy who shares his opinions. In fact, most of the world respects a guy who shares his opinions. Honesty and integrity are such important character traits, especially when it comes to leading companies. One of the traits that I most admire about Elon Musk is Elon, and Elon is not shy about Elon. That includes his opinions, his thoughts, and his personality. He's a real human being. Most other CEOs of most other companies are scared and concerned. What will investors think? How should I dress? How should I act? What should I say? What topic should I avoid? Is this too controversial of a statement? Should I not go there? Is this a dangerous thing to talk about? How will people react? What will the stock do? Elon literally gives zero fucks. Why? He's a man of pure integrity. This matters. So those are some of the autistic traits that I believe make Elon Musk such a great leader, inventor, innovator, and engineer. And now for a little bit of a bonus, I'm going to do the autism quotient test for you guys and show you how I would respond to each of these questions. I understand most of you won't care, so see you guys in the next video. But for those who want to stick around, especially those who are wondering, hey, am I autistic? Am I maybe on the spectrum as well? Stay tuned. It might be insightful. So here we are looking at the autism spectrum quotient quiz. I'll put a link in the description if you guys would like to do this. If you're a little bit suspicious, maybe you're on the spectrum, I really do recommend you fill this one out. See what your result comes in at. Now, I just want to preface this by saying there's two ways to complete this quiz. There's the, this is how I was innately, and there's, this is how I am today. In other words, this is how I've adapted, because these can change over time. You can learn, you can adapt and improve. I'm going to answer these questions as they apply to me today, not innately. In other words, at the end of this quiz, I'm going to look a little bit less autistic than I actually intrinsically am, because I've learned and adapted over time. So just keep that in mind. With that said, let's get into it. I prefer to do things with others rather than on my own. If I'm being honest, definitely on my own. I love to catch up with friends and family, and especially beautiful women. Not gonna lie, I do spend a lot of time, in fact, hanging out with people, but it drains me a lot of my energy. And if I'm being honest, I probably make about twice as many videos, even 3 times as many videos in a week as I see other human beings. Literally. So clearly, I'm going to say definitely agree. That doesn't mean I don't enjoy hanging out with people socially. As I mentioned, I love it, but it takes a lot of energy for me, and I only need to hang out with friends maybe once or twice a week, and I'm good. I prefer to do things the same way over and over. At first, absolutely not. I'll experiment and I'll try and find the best way. But once I've got something that works, absolutely. Maybe you guys have noticed my thumbnail style hasn't changed for the entire duration of this channel. Why? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'd rather use my mental energy to think of something else rather than try and reinvent the wheel every single time. If I try to imagine something, I find it very easy to create a picture in my mind. In this particular case, I definitely disagree, and I also have to critique this quiz a little bit. This has nothing whatsoever to do with autism. In fact, some people have an incredible ability to visualize, others quite a poor ability. I literally can't visualize shit. You might think, what are you talking about? No, literally, my ability to visualize things is broken. Nothing going on whatsoever. But again, I don't really think this is autism related. This quiz is from like 2001. It's about 20 years old, so could be updated a little bit. This has nothing to do with autism, but I'll answer the question anyway. I frequently get so strongly absorbed in one thing that I lose sight of all other things. Definitely agree. If there was an ultra definitely agree, I would be ticking that. 100% me to a T. I mentioned earlier in this video, I'll forget to eat and sleep if I'm focused on something. I often notice small sounds when others do not. Definitely agree. I have extremely sensitive hearing. If it weren't for white noise, I would never be able to get sleep. Absolutely insane. So totally agree on this one. I usually notice car number plates or similar strings of information. Number plates, no, but certainly, I'm talking about investing, numbers, finance, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, I definitely agree on this one as well. Other people frequently tell me that what I've said is impolite, even though I think it is polite. In this case, I definitely disagree. Now, let me clarify. I say a lot of things that are impolite, but I always know that what I've said is impolite. I have the social awareness, and thank I think I would have had a very, very difficult childhood if I didn't have this social awareness. Thankfully I do. So this never occurs, but I want to be real clear. I say a lot of impolite things, but I always do so consciously. When I'm reading a story, I can easily imagine what the characters might look like. To be honest, I don't read fiction, like ever. Literally, all the books I read are non-fiction, so I, by default, definitely disagree here. I am fascinated by dates. To be honest, definitely disagree, but I know what they're getting at, fascination with numbers, patterns, all this kind of stuff. But yeah, dates, no interest to me whatsoever, just answering honestly. In a social group, I can easily keep track of several different people's conversations. I slightly disagree here. Sometimes I can, but honestly, I'd much rather like a one-on-one or a two-on-one sort of conversation where there's just a few people. Much easier for me to keep track of. I find social situations easy. I'm going to say I slightly agree here. I know what this is getting at, but honestly, I've adapted extremely well. When I was younger, maybe this would be a little bit of a different story, but honestly, I do find social situations relatively easy. Shout out to everybody that I've met up with. You guys can kind of understand where I'm coming from here as well. This is something that I've certainly improved on over time. And again, I think I would have had a very difficult childhood if I wasn't able to understand social nuances. The point is, a lot of stuff that comes innate to neurotypical people, I've had to learn, but I've been able to do that in a lot of cases. So this is the answers for me today, not necessarily how I intrinsically was. I tend to notice details that others do not. All the time. This is me in an absolute nutshell. Shout out to like Cybertrucker's engineering genius. I could keep going on. Like half the videos I've ever made on this channel is an example of me noticing something and I'm like, wait, no one else has noticed this? No one's talking about this? Okay, I'm going to point it out. Maybe people will agree, maybe they won't. But yeah, absolutely, this is the story of my life. I would rather go to a library than to a party. I'm going to disagree with this. I love learning, reading books, etc. But honestly, I have a great time hanging out with people. As I mentioned earlier though, it just drains me of so much energy. I find making up stories easy. Definitely disagree. Like, oh man, creative writing in high school and primary school was one of the most challenging things for me by miles. I find myself drawn more strongly to people than things. Definitely disagree. I tend to have very strong interests, which I get upset about if I can't pursue. I can't answer really the second part of this question. Maybe I'm just winning at life so much, but I always get to pursue things that I'm interested in. There's really no obstacles between that. But the first part, I tend to have very strong interests. Absolutely. And probably if somebody got between me and one of my interests, yeah, I'd probably get a little bit pissed. I'm not going to lie. Definitely agree. I enjoy social chit-chat. Hell no. One of the worst things ever. I literally want to claw my eyeballs out. To me, I understand the purpose of social chit-chat. I totally get it. But to me, it's like, this is unproductive. It's just empty and hollow and meaningless. Come on, let's talk about something meaningful, interesting, exciting. Come on. Absolutely hate social chit-chat. I know it serves a purpose, but it just, oh man, not a fan whatsoever. When I talk, it isn't always easy for others to get a word in edgewise. Yeah, I definitely agree. YouTube's useful for that, right? I can just go on a 10-minute monologue. Nobody interrupts me and nobody gets offended. It's great. Can't help myself. I am fascinated by numbers. Definitely agree. Shout out to an entire channel about investing. When I'm reading a story, I find it difficult to work out the character's intentions. I don't read stories like I said before, so I'm going to say agree, slightly agree here because, I have in the past read fiction. It's not ultra difficult for me. But again, I don't even read fiction, so that kind of in itself is an answer. Oh, I fancy that. I don't particularly enjoy reading fiction. Definitely agree. Literally, out of the last 100 books I've read, 100 of them were non-fiction. Let's just leave it at that. I find it hard to make new friends. I definitely disagree on this point. Now, I want to clarify. I find it hard to find people that I'm interested in enough as a person to want to be friends with, but I have absolutely no difficulty whatsoever actually making friends with people that I want to be friends with. And this has been true even since a very early age. Throughout my childhood, I know most people on the autism spectrum really suffer. Very, very difficult for them to make or maintain friendships. But for me, I guess I'm a little bit of an anomaly in this case. Even from my earliest memories, I've always had a great social circle and I've always been able to connect with people at a really deep level. But as I said, I do find it quite difficult to find people that I'm actually interested enough in to want to be friends with. That, however, is a separate matter. I notice patterns in things all the time. Absolutely. Bingo, spot on. I would rather go to a theatre than to a museum. I'm going to go with slightly disagree on this one. I mean, I love museums. In fact, I'm going to go definitely disagree. I love museums so much to the point I was in Europe years ago. I spent an entire day and a half in like the Natural History Museum in Austria. All my friends like, what's wrong with you, dude? What are you doing? You want to spend 2 days in there? What are you doing? And yes, I did. I had an amazing time checking out the meteorites and it was great. Loved it. It does not upset me if my daily routine is disturbed. I'm going to go with slightly disagree. I love my routines. It's not the end of the world, but I'd much prefer to just stick to what I had planned. I frequently find that I don't know how to keep a conversation going. I slightly disagree with this one. Again, I mean, if somebody's boring as fuck, I'm not even going to try to hold a conversation with them. I'll literally just bail. Like, I'm pretty direct. I'm out of here. I'm not going to tell somebody you're boring as fuck, but I'm not going to waste time. So, generally speaking, I only find myself hanging around with people that I enjoy their company and we've got something useful and interesting to talk about. But I see where this is coming from. I find it easy to read between the lines when someone is talking to me. I'm going to say slightly agree here. This is something that I've definitely developed over time, but I'm in a pretty good spot with this now. I usually concentrate more on the whole picture rather than small details. This is a tough one because I feel now that I have a good ability to do both, but generally speaking, detail is where I start. That's where my focus tends to start. So I'm going to say slightly disagree. I am not very good at remembering phone numbers. I should just skip this question. I mean, this is 20 years old. When was the last time anyone even needed to remember a phone number? But I do recall back in the day, I was relatively good at actually remembering phone numbers, so I'm going to go with slightly disagree. I don't usually notice small changes in a situation or a person's appearance. I'm going to go with slightly disagree here. I'm pretty perceptive with that stuff. I know how to tell if someone listening to me is getting bored. I'm going to say slightly disagree. I find it easy to do more than one thing at once. Definitely disagree with this one. I'm singular focused. Definitely one thing at a time, not multiple things. Definitely. When I talk on the phone, I'm not sure when it's my turn to speak. I'm going to go with slightly disagree here. I enjoy doing things spontaneously. Slightly disagree. I prefer to plan. I mean, I actually do enjoy a bit of spontaneity here and there, but it's almost like planned spontaneity, you know? If it's going to completely derail my plan for the entire day, not a big fan, but I don't mind being a little bit adventurous and spontaneous here and there. I am often the last to understand the point of a joke. Definitely disagree. In fact, I literally have the opposite thing here. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of insight here. I have an extremely high verbal IQ, which means I process language very quickly. In fact, I'm a linguistic thinker. I'm a verbal thinker. So my entire method of thought is verbal, it's words, etc. It's kind of hard to explain to you guys, but the point is, I'm almost laughing before I've heard the butt of a joke because I figured out what's coming and then bang, there it goes. So I'm not sure if this is something that's common to people on the autism spectrum or not, but I'm actually always the first person to get the joke rather than the last. I find it easy to work out what someone is thinking or feeling just by looking at their face. I'm going to go with slightly disagree here. I mean, if it's obvious to me, no problem, but sometimes it takes me a little bit longer to process facial expressions and emotions and stuff like that, so I'm going to go with slightly disagree here. I'm definitely not the first person in the room to notice somebody's feeling sad, for example. If there is an interruption, I can switch back to what I was doing very quickly. I definitely disagree with this one. Man, it takes a long time for me to spool up and get into the flow of something. Any distraction, any task switching, I pay a huge penalty. I am good at social chit-chat. Hell no, I don't enjoy it. I don't even bother doing it. People often tell me that I keep going on and on about the same thing. Now, I'm going to be clear here. The answer to this, the truthful answer to this is no, but I know where they're coming from here. I ramble about Tesla, blah, blah, blah. They're talking about monologues, blah, blah, blah. I totally get this. But the truth is, I do have social awareness enough to know this. But again, this is something that I've learned over time. When I was young, I used to enjoy playing games involving pretending with other children. Definitely disagree. I couldn't do imaginative play when I was younger. I mean, I remember some moments, you know, there's kids like playing with cars, like racing them around, thinking that they're legit. And I'm thinking to myself, like, how is this fun to them? I don't get it. I'd much rather just like, you know, learn the physics and try and bang this small thing into this big thing and see what goes flying, how far does it move. Never into imaginative play. I remember people had like their Transformers and superheroes in primary school, and I'm like, I just don't even get it. You guys, like, how do you even do that? Like, really, it just never made sense to me. I like to collect information about categories of things, e.g. types of cars, birds, trains, and plants. I mean, not necessarily about these things, but I'm actually going to go with slightly agree. I certainly like to know information about stuff that I care about, all of the sciences, and Tesla in particular. I find it difficult to imagine what it would be like to be someone else. I'll go with slightly agree here. I like to carefully plan any activities I participate in. I'm going to say definitely agree. I mean, as I said, sometimes spontaneity is fun, but generally speaking, if I look at my behaviors and my actions, I'm much more of a planner. I enjoy social occasions. Slightly agree. As I mentioned, I love hanging out with friends and family, but it really does drain me of a lot of energy. It takes me a lot of time to recover. So social stuff is fun, but in relatively small doses. I find it difficult to work out people's intentions. I'm going to say slightly disagree here. Again, something that I've learned. If I was talking about my innate response, I'd probably agree a lot more than that. But this is something that I've developed over time and very, very helpful. New situations make me anxious. I'm going to go with slightly agree here. Not really noticeably so, but something new. It's kind of draining a little bit more mental energy, I think, as well. So yeah, that's what I'm going to go with there. I enjoy meeting new people. Definitely agree. One of my favorite things to do. I am a good diplomat. Hell f***ing no. I mean, I'm going to be honest here. I can be a good diplomat when I really need to, but I'd rather not be diplomatic. I'd rather just be me. So I don't even bother. I just choose not to. I'm not very good at remembering people's date of birth. I'm going to go with slightly agree here. I mean, honestly, I just put it in my calendar. I don't try to remember it. Why would I even bother when I can outsource my memory to a calendar? Don't get it. I find it very easy to play games with children that involve pretending. Very easy? Definitely not. I'm going to say definitely disagree. I mean, I can do the pretend play with kids, but I don't find it very easy per the wording. Let's see my results. Your score was a 35 out of a possible 50. Scores in the 33 to 50 range indicate significant autistic traits, aka autism. And as I mentioned, these are my adapted responses. If I was giving my intrinsic answers without any of the learning and progress that I've made over my life, this would probably be closer to 38, 40. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this. As I said, there's a link in the description to do the Autism Spectrum Quotient quiz if you're curious about yourself. Let me know in the comments below if anyone who's watching this video is on the autism spectrum or if they're suspicious that they might be. I'm Stephen Mark Ryan. This is Solving the Money Problem, and I love you all. And don't forget, if you'd like up to $250 in free crypto bonuses with BlockFi, use the link in the description. You can also get 2 free stocks with WeBull and a free stock with Stake, also linked in the description. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And of course, if you have any ideas for future videos, let me know. I read all your comments. P.S. If you're still watching, you're awesome. If you'd like early access, exclusive videos, regular Q&As, our private Discord server and more, consider supporting the channel at patreon.com/solvingthemoneyproblem so I can keep creating content for you guys. There's a link in the description. You can now also become a member of the channel for some exclusive perks. To learn more, click the join button next to subscribe. And don't forget to check out our merch store. Either way, the best form of support is you being here and watching, so thanks again.